Hey guys, it's Mr. Paulo, and today we're going to be talking about graphing. So, graphing is used to take your information, your numbers from your data table, and to put those into a visual representation so you can see them and you can compare them very easily and make quick references from that information. So, what I had written here is graphs make it easier to see complex patterns and display data in a visual manner. All right? Here's a graph right here, and if you didn't know, it's a bar graph. All right, and I want to identify several things on here and talk about them. So the first thing I want to talk about is over here, this gold brick in Series 1. This is the key, and it identifies what you're talking about out there. So all these gold bars, these are Series 1. If we had a whole bunch of red bars and we had a little red block and we had Series 2, that would mean that the red blocks, they're Series 2. So the key identifies what your bars are in this case. If you had a line graph, it would identify the lines. All right. Next thing are the numbers that run up on the y-axis, and they're intervals. And our interval for this one is 0.5 because each one of these goes up by 0.5. This whole piece right here, this is the dependent variable, and it's located on the y-axis. Right? Your final thing down here on the x-axis, this right here is your independent variable, and it's located on the x-axis. I like to remember this by drawing a D right here, and that lets me know that this is the dependent variable. And I like to draw an I down here because this is the independent variable, and that just helps me remember. That's a little trick I use. So when to use each one of these graphs. So a bar graph, you'd use that for doing simple comparisons. So let's say your class voted on a class president, and you wanted to show the difference between the amounts of votes the different candidates got. So that would be a simple comparison there. You're comparing votes to people. So that'd be a bar graph. Next one is a pie graph. When working with percents or parts within a whole. So a good example of this would be you took the class this time, instead of having vote on president, you polled them to see what pizzas they would like, and then you would have a percentage for which pizzas people liked in the class, and you could show that. The final one is a line graph, and that'd be a good example with let's say speed. So you'd have your distance and then your time on the bottom. So you'd have distance on your vertical axis and time on your horizontal axis, and you'd be comparing those two things that would show your speed. And you'd have three variables there. You'd have your speed, you'd have your time, and you'd have your distance. And that's why you couldn't do that with a bar graph. You couldn't compare those three things. You can only compare two things with the bar graph at a time. Okay? So here we go. We have our data table, and we have a graph made for us here, and it's a line graph. And one thing that's not done here, and I'll finish it for them, is they didn't start at 0. So I'm going to just connect this to 0 right here, and we're going to help them. We're going to fill this out. So I want to show you how to do a line graph. Last year my students had a lot of trouble with it, so I'm going to show you right here. We're going to graph the Prius, and then we're going to do the Mustang. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the Prius, and I see that the Prius, in 1 second, it traveled 10 miles per hour. So I'm going to find 1 second here. It's right here. And I'm going to go up from that, and I'm going to put a dot at 10. So that's halfway right there. Alright, that's 10, I would say, at 1 second. Alright, I'm going to go up here. I'm going to look at the Prius at 2 seconds. It was at 20 miles per hour. So I'm going to find my 2 here. I'm going to go up and put my dot right there on that 20. Alright? Next one was 30 at 3 seconds. I'm going to find 3 seconds. Then I'm going to find 30 halfway between that 20 and that 40, and I'm going to put it right there. Isn't that awesome? The graphing's so much fun. The next one, 4 seconds, it was at 40 miles per hour. So 4 seconds and 40 miles per hour right on that line. Awesome. I bet you guys will just be graphing forever. After you see this, you'll just be like, can't wait to go home and graph. At 5 seconds, we were at 45 miles per hour. So I'm going to be here at 5 seconds. I'm going to go to 45 miles per hour. That's going to be right about, no, I'd say right about there. I'd say that's more 50. don't count that one. Just ignore that. At 6 seconds, we were at 50. So I'm gonna be here at 6, and I'm gonna go to 50. And unfortunately, the graph I had made on Microsoft Excel, it cut off at 6, so we don't have to worry about that 7. We'll cross that out. Don't worry about that. It's just miscellaneous information. So, alright, I have my points plotted for the Prius. Now I just connect my dots, and boom, 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 and boom. You will do a much better job if you use a ruler and a pencil. I'm working with a mouse here, so it gives me a little bit of trouble. I apologize for these inconsistencies here. Alright, that way I did in my Prius. I hope you guys all loved that one, because now we're going to do it again with the Mustang. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to be at 1 second, and I'm going to go to 15 miles per hour. 1 second, 15 miles per hour, I'd say that's right there. That looks good. At 2 seconds, we were at 30 miles per hour, so I would say probably about right there. Alright, at 3 seconds, I was at 45. So I'm going to find that 45, I'm going to put a little dot there. At 4 seconds, I was at 60 miles per hour. Hit that line right there. Alright, at 5 seconds, I went to 75 miles per hour. So I would be right underneath that line right there for 80. And then at 6 seconds, I'm at 90. So I'll be here, and I'll be right there. Alright, and the last thing I have to do is I have to connect my dots. Now, I don't have a colored pen, so I can't follow the rules that my key is giving me. But if I did have colored pencils, I would make sure that these would match up with the colors that the key represents. But that's how you do a line graph. It's not very complicated. You have to look at your time. You look at your time, find your time down here, and then you'll run up from your time to what your speed was, and you'll mark that off. Alright, guys? I hope that helped. Rewind it, go back over it if you didn't understand something.